What relationship between humans and nature creates the most long-term success? Does humans having dominion over the natural world, including the animals, create long-term sustained ecological health and resilience? Or does having a relationship with nature and animals in harmony, as like brothers and sisters, as like a family, create long-term ecological success? We're going to do a deep dive into that today, and we're going to start with Alan Watts. I'm Carrie Blazer, the Divine Feminine, and the main reason I make these videos is to share my free ebook. Please like and subscribe to my channel and help me distribute my free ebook, my 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Strategies that help you transform your emotional wounds into personal wisdom. I'm here teaching that self-love creates heaven on earth, that heaven is a frequency in our hearts projected externally because we live in a holographic universe. But we can get into all of that after we watch Alan Watts. Let's start with him, and then we're going to do a deeper dive comparing the Christian worldview and the Native American worldview, and which ones create a healthy nuclear family and an improved relationship with our ecology. But let's start with Alan Watts and see what he has to say. I'll make it bigger, and then here we go.
So then, here is a conception of nature as something you must trust. Outside nature, the birds, the bees, the flowers, the mountains, the clouds, and inside nature, human nature. Now, nature isn't trustworthy completely. It'll sometimes let you down with a wallop. But that's the risk you take. That's the risk of life. What's the alternative? I do not trust nature at all. It's got to be watched. You know what that leads to? It leads to 1984 and Big Brother. It leads to the totalitarian state where everybody is his brother's policeman, and where everybody is watching everybody else to report them to the authorities, where you can't trust your own motivation, where you have to have a psychoanalyst in charge of you all the time to be sure that you don't think dangerous thoughts or peculiar thoughts. And you report all peculiar thoughts to your analyst, and your analyst keeps a record of them and reports them to the government. And everybody is busy keeping records of everything. It's much more important to record what happens than what happens. This is already eating us up. It's much more important that you have your books right than that you conduct your business in a good way. In universities, it's much more important that the registrar's records be in order than that the library be well stocked. After all, do you know your grades are all locked up in safes, and they're protected from thievery and pilfering, and they're the most valuable property that the university has. The library can go hang. Then furthermore, the main function of a university is, what any sensible person would imagine, to teach students and to do research. So the faculty should be the most important thing in the university. On the contrary, the administration is the most important thing. The people who keep the records, who make the game rules up. And so the faculty are always being obstructed by the administration and being forced to attend irrelevant meetings and to do everything but scholarship. Do you know what scholarship means? What a school means, the original meaning of a schola? Leisure. We talked of a scholar and a gentleman.
Do you think that kids in school right now experience school as leisure devoted to learning? Or is it devoted to indoctrination? And I'll let you examine that on your own.
And he could afford to be a scholar. He didn't have to earn a living Therefore, he could study the classics and poetry and things like that. Today, psst, nothing is more busy than a school. They make you work, because you got through on schedule. They have expedited courses, and you go to school so as to get a union card, a PhD or something, so that you can earn a living. So that's a whole contradiction of scholarship. Scholarship is to study everything that's unimportant.
I would
Not
say that
necessary for
school
survival.
changed with the Industrial Revolution when they focused their intent was to create good workers. When I went to high school and undergrad and like elementary school, it was all memorize and repeat. And that was super boring for me because I love being creative and intuitive. So even though I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies and learned classical Chinese at the University of California at Santa Barbara, got both my undergraduate and graduate degrees at a stellar university, I was getting C's and B's in high school. I barely graduated high school with a B average, and I had a 3.9 graduating my master's degree when I learned classical Chinese because it felt like leisure. I loved it. I loved looking up the characters. I loved learning classical Chinese. I loved looking at the history, the critical analysis. I wasn't just becoming like everybody else. I was doing my own analysis, my own critical thinking. I was thinking for myself. I didn't allow myself to be indoctrinated like is so much in schools right now. Like my older daughter's in college and she has to make a social activism sign and it has to be a certain way. Like you have to believe the trans and the LGBTQ indoctrination and write your papers that way or you don't pass. And there's tons of evidence on that. Both my daughter and her man say the same thing. They want you to become like these people on the right. When you went in like these people on the left. Like there's even studies that show, the percentage of 5-year-olds that are geniuses genius is pattern recognition, not rote memorization. That's what creates genius. So 95% of the 5-year-olds had genius pattern recognition. Only 5% had the same when they graduated high school. And here's exactly what's going on with our kids.
Charming irrelevances of life. But you see, the thing is this, if you don't have a room in your life for the playful, life's not worth living. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But if the only reason for which Jack plays is that he can work better afterwards, he's not really playing. He's playing because it's good for him. He's not playing at all. You have to be able to be a true scholar. You have to cultivate an attitude to life where you're not trying to get anything out of it. You pick up a pebble on the beach, look at it. It's beautiful. Don't try and get a sermon out of it. Sermons in stones and God in everything be damned. Just enjoy it. Don't feel that you've got to salve your conscience by saying that this is for the advancement of your aesthetic.
We're going to get into Christianity here in a second. And in Christianity teaches that God gave us dominion over animals and land. They need to be controlled, that we're better than them. We know more. How easy is it to enjoy something you have dominion over? Just asking.
If you do that, you become healthy. You become able to be a loving, helpful human being. But if you can't do that, if you can only do things because they are somehow you're going to get something out of it, you're a vulture. So, we have to learn. We don't have to, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go on living. But it's a great idea. It's a great thing if you can learn what the Chinese call purposelessness. They think nature is purposeless. When we say something's purposeless, that's put down. There's no future in it. It's a washout. But when they hear the word purposeless, they think that's just great. It's like the waves washing against the shore, going on and on and on forever with no meaning. A great Zen master said as his death poem, just before he died, "From the bathtub to the bathtub, I have uttered stuff and nonsense." The bathtub in which the baby is washed at birth, the bathtub in which the corpse is washed before burial, all this time I have said many nonsenses. Like the birds in the trees go, twee, 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 twee. What's it all about? Everybody tries to say, oh, it's a mating call. It's purposeful, trying to get their mate, attract them with a song. That's why they have colors. Butterflies have eyes on them. Self-protection. Engineering view of the universe. Why do that? They say, well, it's because they need to survive. Oh, why survive? What's that for? Well, to survive. See, human beings, really a lot of tubes. And all living creatures are just tubes. And these tubes have to put things in at one end and let it out at the other. Then they get clever about it and they develop nerve ganglia on one end of the tube, the eating end, called a head. And it's got eyes in it, it's got ears in it, it's got little organs, antenna and things like this. And that helps you to find things to put in one end so that you can let them out the other. Well, while you're doing this, you see the stuff going through wears the tube out. And so that the show can go on, the tubes have complicated ways of making other tubes who will go on doing the same thing. In at one end, out the other. And they say, well, that's terribly serious. That's awfully important. We've got to keep on doing this. But when Chinese say nature is purposeless, this is a compliment. It's like the idea of the Japanese have a word, yugen, and they describe yugen as watching wild geese fly and be hidden in the clouds, as watching a ship vanish behind a distant island, as wandering on and on in a great forest with no thought of return. Haven't you done this? Haven't you gone on a walk with no particular purpose in mind? Carry a stick with you and you occasionally hit at old stumps and wander along and sometimes twiddle your thumbs. It's at that moment that you are a perfectly rational human being. You learn purposelessness. All music is purposeless. Is music getting somewhere? If it were, if the aim of music of a symphony were to get to the final bar, the best conductor would be the one who got there fastest. See, dancing, when you dance, do you aim to arrive at a particular place on the floor? Is that the idea of dancing? Huh? The aim of dancing is to dance, is the present. Well, it's exactly the same with our life. We think life has a purpose. I remember the preachers used to say, when I was a small boy, I'd always hear it, we must follow God's purpose, his purpose for you and his purpose for me.
Again, this gets into
When
God gave us dominion over, and it's an external source of control. God's purpose is outside of us, and he controls us, but when we have an external locus of control, that sets us up for a victim mindset, codependent relationships, and mental illness. So that's why I do a deep dive into Christianity and have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. So, of course, I've known of Alan Watts for a long time. I got that degree 30 years ago. So let's keep watching.
You know what it was? They had a hymn. God is working his purpose out as year succeeds to year. God is working his purpose out and the time is drawing near. The time when the earth shall be full of the glory of God as the waters cover the sea. What's the glory of God? Well, they weren't quite sure. I'll tell you what it is. In heaven, all those angels are gathered around the glory of God. That is to say, the which than which there is no witcher.
The Shekinah is femininity.
Catholics call it the beatific
like
vision.
Sophia,
The Jews
the
call it
divine
the
feminine,
Shekinah.
like me.
They're all those angels.
That's femininity.
And they're standing around.
Nature is feminine. And God gave us dominion over nature and animals as God gave the men dominion over the feminine. But as I've learned through multiple enlightenment experiences, that I'm responsible for creation as the feminine, and the masculine is in charge of execution or orchestration, and that I don't need to be told how to do my lane, and he doesn't need to be told how to do his lane. But when we minimize one and prioritize the other, like in Christianity, there's the imbalance, and then that creates an imbalance with nature, and then that gets us manifest destiny, where we killed 60 million buffalo, hundreds of millions of beavers, how many wolves, millions of otters, millions of salmon with all the dams. Salmon are keystone species, and the nutrients they bring from the ocean, and they swim way up into those creeks into the woods, are necessary nutrients for the woods to stop wildfires, the nitrogen they bring. Oh, it's fascinating. Fascinating. But we understand that, and we look for that knowledge when we're busy being in relationship with and not being dominant over. Dominant over is, I know best, besides this, we have enough fish, let's build those dams. Only to find 50 years later, or even shorter, the fish are gone. Now what? Oh, we have electricity, but no food. The Native Americans knew this, but we didn't listen to the Native Americans because they are the savages. We have dominion over. We associated them with the buffalo, like we're better than them. We had purpose, right?
On it and they're saying, Alleluia, 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 Alleluia. It means nothing. They're just having a ball. See, that's what happened in the beginning. When God created the universe, it was created like all stars, all planets, all galaxies. They're vaguely spherical. He created this and he said, have a ball. But before he said that, he said, you must draw the line somewhere. That was the real thing he said first. Before let there be light. That came later. First thing was, you must draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, nothing will happen. You've got to have the good guys, the bad guys. You've got to have this, you've got to have that. The black and white, light and darkness. Must draw the line somewhere. Now, here's the choice then. Are you going to trust it or not? If you do trust it, you may get let down. And this it is yourself, your own nature, and all nature around you. There are going to be mistakes. But if you don't trust it at all, you're going to strangle yourself. You're going to fence yourself round with rules and regulations and laws and prescriptions and policemen and guards, and who's going to guard the guards, and who's going to look after Big Brother to be sure that he doesn't do something stupid. No go. Supposing I get annoyed with somebody in the audience, and I'm going to throw this ashtray at them. But I don't want to hit my friend sitting next to that person. I want to be absolutely sure this ashtray hits that individual. And so I don't trust myself to throw it. I have to carry it along and be sure I hit that person on the head. See, I don't throw it because I can't let go of it. To throw it, I must let go of it. To live, I must have faith. I must trust myself to the totally unknown. I must trust myself to a nature which doesn't have a boss, because a boss is a system of mistrust. That is why Lao Tzu's Tao loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them.
Yes, did you know that children, we learn like at least 4 times faster while playing than we do while not playing? That's why it's so important for children to play while learning and not just sit and have memorize this and repeat it, which is what happened to my kids, and my kids hated it. But let's get into where Christianity, or this was formed, that God gave us dominion over, and how does it set us up for healthy nuclear families or not healthy nuclear families? And we're going to do a deep dive into that. So the idea that God gave humans dominion over animals and nature comes directly from the book of Genesis. In the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, a key verse is, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth." Does that teach humans to be in relationship with or superiority over? And when Christians have been busy being superior over people and birds and animals, what happened? Oh, Spanish Inquisition, Crusades, burning at the stake, manifest destiny, lots of killing, lots of killing, lots of killing. But also Christianity teaches us to love thy enemy. So why the difference here? Well, the difference is inner authority, where souls having a human experience. Buffaloes are souls having a buffalo experience. Birds are souls having a bird experience. We're all souls. So how is one above the other? Okay, well, we're going to keep looking. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Subdue it. Well, nature is traditionally feminine. There's the mystery, right? How do you control femininity? And femininity is the emotional center. Well, our hearts are a vortex. Can you command a vortex? Like, can you command a black hole? No. So when we live in reality, women don't need to be commanded, because you're trying to command a vortex, which based on the laws of physics is impossible. Women need support to create and be intuitive, be compassionate and nurturing and feminine and safe and protection. We're going to get into a Cherokee proverb of my book in a minute, but it says a woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with source. Where a woman's highest, that's a woman's highest calling. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. But in a Christian household, the man is the spiritual lead, not the woman. Well, now we know, based on the laws of physics, because we've done tons of experiments, that our souls communicate via emotions. So soul being the spiritual, emotion being the emotional center, and women's nervous systems are far more robust than men's nervous system. So women are physiologically designed to be the emotional center, to express emotions through the soul, do that internal work, and teach their family how to do it. That's internal authority. But Christianity, the last 2,000 years in Europe was focused on the creation of a nation state. So they needed a religion that would mirror that and mirror that hierarchy. Close women's mouths, go to church for forgiveness, compassion, and nurturing, basically institutionalized femininity, shut women up, and there you have your control, your dominion over nature. So within the biblical narrative, it is God speaking. Historically, these words are attributed to the ancient Israelite priestly authors, editors who compiled Genesis. Okay, later thinkers also emphasize this idea. Thomas Aquinas, who argued that animals exist for human use within a divinely ordered hierarchy. We're above them, we tell them what to do. Oh, well, did we know that all the keystone species, they're the ones that maintain the ecological structure? They're the ecological engineers. So when you deprive the land of keystone species, then drought, flooding, wildfires, lack of stability in the land is what's created. And that's everywhere right now. That's why there's such a major push to return the keystone species in Europe and America. So John Calvin saw dominion as stewardship under God. God, external locus of control, we're under him, but that sets us up for the victim mindset. That sets us up for the oppressor, oppressee mindset of the left, but it's still the same worldview, that external authority. When we change our worldview to internal authority, that our hearts are vortex, that we live in a holographic universe, so that when love is projected out from our hearts, that's how we create heaven on earth. That since we live in a holographic universe, how can heaven be elsewhere? We'll explore all this. But dominion model, humans have authority to use nature. Stewardship model, humans are caretakers responsible before God. So stewardship, more alignment, I would say, with Native Americans. But how would Native American and Carl Jung interpret this statement? I love Carl Jung. He helps me understand. How many Native American traditions would interpret dominion? Now, there's not one single one, but we can look at the difference. Lakota, expression kinship with animals, plants, and land. I can't read that one. That's what the teachings include. The seventh generation principle. Decisions should consider impact 7 generations ahead. Like when Native Americans went and fought in World War I and World War II, even though they had a very poor relationship with the American government, they knew they were protecting their ancestors 7 ahead, and so they did it. Because they understand that it's not just about right now, that we're souls having a human experience or souls having a buffalo experience. There's reincarnation. And so they will have their great-grandchildren, their great-great-grandchildren will benefit from their work now. And so they do it. I love that. The Navajo Nation, harmony and balance with the natural world. And in other traditions, like animals are persons or other than human persons. They're relations. They're their brothers and sisters. The earth is not property, but relative. We're relatives. We're in relation with. And so that's why with Manifest Destiny, the American government knew that if we kill 60 million buffalo, that's going to decimate the Native American population. And they also put Native American kids in Christian schools. Oh, it wasn't Catholicism that engaged in pedophilia, was it? Right? Christianity's perfect, I forgot. And then they lost 90% of their population. But today, their population is restored, and America has 500,000 buffalo. Is decimated to about 1,000 or less in Yellowstone. And now we have over 500,000. It's beautiful. So the Genesis statement of dominion would often be interpreted not as rightful domination, but as a misunderstanding of humanity's place. It might be seen as spiritually imbalanced, elevating humans above the circle of life rather than within it. There's the arrogance, there's the narcissism, there's the mental illness. Indigenous traditions are not romantic pacifism. Hunting and use of animals were central, but the relationship was often framed as reciprocity, ritual respect, obligation to maintain balance, not unilateral authority. Like Native Americans would burn the grasslands, the prairie, because that's what brought new life, and the bison loved it. And the roots in the prairie were super deep, and then the buffalo would wallow in the land and create small holes. So in the spring, it would retain water, and there's a whole ecosystem right there for frogs, salamanders, dragonflies. This is how we all work together in relationship with. And when you're present, when you're purposeless, and you sit and observe just to learn out of the joy of learning, you can observe all this when you're present. When you don't, I'm doing this now, I have purpose. And so that narrows your viewpoint. You can't see everything. But when you don't have purpose and you sit and you observe, then you're open to taking in lots and lots and lots. How Carl Jung would interpret dominion. Okay, symbolically, not literally. Jung might interpret dominion as an archetypal expression of emergence of human consciousness over instinct, differentiation of ego from nature, and the rise of reflective awareness. Okay, but Western over-identification with domination. Jung was critical of modern Western consciousness for becoming overly rational and detached from nature, and that's femininity. So I'm adding that in, but that's femininity. Judaism, their first week of their Jewish calendar is all about the feminine. The Jewish New Year, then the Saturday, the Sabbath between the Jewish New Year and Yom Kippur, forgiveness, also feminine, is the Sabbath of return. It's the biggest Sabbath of self-reflection. So you start your year with self-reflection, changing your wounds into wisdom. forgive yourself. And then the priest goes in this room for forgiveness, and it's like going into the womb, and there's one veil like separating the hymen. He's the only one that can go in. Do they understand femininity, or are they trying to contain it? Just asking. Indigenous worldview as psychologically integrated. And that's where, the integration of the masculine and the feminine creates wholeness, that creates heart coherence, it creates nervous system balance, creates emotional maturity. This is why integrated is so important. Jung was fascinated by indigenous cosmologies because they maintain symbolic relationships with nature. He might see relational worldviews as closer to participation mystique, a sense of embeddedness in nature, symbolic awareness of interconnectedness. However, he would also argue that full individuation requires differentiation, not total fusion with nature. Sure, you have to understand that I'm a human and I have this role, and they're a buffalo, they have that role, right? So the key framework, literal dominion reading, human nature relationship, hierarchical authority, stewardship reading, responsible. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Okay, I want to stop sharing this. I did a deep dive on this, comparing Native Americans with families, but I want to show you my book first. And the quote in my book, because that really helps us understand where I went in this deep dive with ChatGPT, and it's the Cherokee proverb. Because my book is my inner heroine exploring feminine pain. And so I was in my masculine my whole life, trying to be the man that I wanted to marry, getting a master's degree, traveling around the world, working, and not being able to stay home with kids. Because when I was busy in my masculine, I attracted a man in his feminine who hadn't healed from his childhood trauma and had not become the provider and protector that I needed. So let's get into that one, and that really kind of helps us understand more. Sorry, that one. Yeah, we're going to look at I don't have, hang on. I'll bring this up, but I don't have it ready to go. I apologize. There it is. Okay. So here's my dedication. A woman's highest calling is to lead a man to his soul, so as to unite him with Source. A man's highest calling is to protect a woman, so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. And I share this because it sets the tone. This really sets the tone for my whole book. I'm kind of sorting what is the feminine lane and what's the masculine lane. I mean, there's tons of YouTube videos asking women, what do men do? Oh, they provide and protect. What do women do? Oh, whatever we want. Is that healthy? Is that a healthy role model? Whatever we want? The vast majority of women would tell you that they would rather be home with their kids. But society teaches them not to say that, so it's embarrassing to say that. It's embarrassing to say that I feel empowered to be at home doing that internal work. Because the right brain, the feminine, is the forgiveness, the compassion, the nurturing, the intuition, the creativity. It's all connection to self. It's how you create a secure attachment to self. And right now, 40 to 60% of kids, by various studies, show in America do not have a secure attachment to self, are not grounded in themselves, cannot control themselves. Look at how many teachers are leaving teaching because kids are so inappropriate, they don't know how to attend. But also what we're asking of kids is inappropriate for their age group and their gender. Like asking little girls to sit in their left brain all day long and learn, they can do it, but that turns them into perfectionists. Asking little boys to sit all day long and not use their physicality turns on the ADHD and the lack of attention. It's not the kids' fault. It's that we're busy making a school system that's convenient for us, that creates workers and isn't creating the best and the healthiest kids. I mean, do adults have a right to children? Like, let's educate them so that they become good workers? Or do children have a right to adults, where children's rights to healthy structures in schooling and family life is their right? And which way creates a healthy society? I'd argue the latter, but I'd like you to, explore that on your own. So let's do a deeper dive into the family, and we'll see the differences between the Cherokee family and a Christian family, and which Where can we learn from while we all kind of self-reflect on how we're going to solve the divorce crisis and the schooling crisis, the family crisis, because a healthy nuclear family is the bedrock of a stable society, proven by countless studies. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the Cherokee proverb, I asked that. This describes complementary responsibilities, not hierarchy. And right now, the Christian worldview is hierarchy, and we had feminism rebel against that because femininity has been repressed for about the past 2,500 years in European and Middle Eastern culture, at least. So a woman's role connecting to the soul. Psychology, this means emotional attunement. Okay, yes, women are designed to be the emotional center, to teach that inner work. That's why babies are designed to be home with the mother. The mother has more mirror neurons than the man. Women create oxytocin, the bonding hormone, from the brain in different ways than men do. Men bond through play. When kids are a little bit older, they're starting to learn, because kids learn through play about, 4 or 5 times faster than not. And the mom is there to mirror how to regulate their emotions. That's not play. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Went too far. Let me go back up. 16. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Truth telling, help it regulate feelings. Truth telling is allowing kids to be authentic. Because kids need 2 things. They need healthy attachment to parents and capacity to express themselves, be authentic. But when children are taught to repress their emotions, repress themselves, then how can they tell the truth? Because they're busy controlling themselves. And we live in a holographic universe. So when a person's busy controlling themselves because they're told what they're saying and, is wrong with the Christian, the external locus of power, how they feel is wrong because how God feels is right, that God has a right to humans, that humans, right? So the same kind of thing. Does God have a right to humans, or do humans have a right to God? Which way is it? So they need helping regulate feelings, naming meaning, maintaining relational coherence. When you have the mother at home and she's kind of supported in being the center, the emotional center and spiritual center of the family, because our souls communicate via emotions, then then women are empowered, like, yeah, I got this. I'm equally valuable to the man. Yeah, I'll stay home. Yes, I'm responsible for the mental health of my family. Yes, I will stay home. But we don't teach women this. We teach women that staying home is like embarrassing, that having a job is more important. Again, the Industrial Revolution, that mindset. She functions as a bridge to interiority and conscious, not as a servant. But in Christian worldview, traditional, woman's subservient. This is not submission, it is emotional leadership. A man's role, protection. Protection in indigenous frameworks means physical safety, boundary setting, shielding, sorry, I went too far, shielding from exploitation, defending the relational space, restraining aggression, self-control. He functions as a container for safety, not as a ruler. Now, sure, if someone comes in trying to kill people, go hide over there. He tells them what to do. But that's the container for safety. He's present for safety, and she's present for connection. And there's the complementary relationships. How this sets people up for success. When healthy, this system creates for women social authority, emotional and spiritual. As in a Christian family, the man is the spiritual lead. And then that minimizes the woman, and then, well, she's subservient. Valued intuition. Well, in Christianity, when a woman would say, the 13th, 14th, 15th century, that her intuition connects her to God, that got her burned on the stake. So, oh no, don't value the intuition in Christianity. Respected voice. Oh, women aren't allowed to talk in church. Safety to be embodied, permission to influence. For men, emotional development. Accountability to conscious. Like you'll hear in the Maori, the traditions in New Zealand, in their traditional relationships, they would go out and be the most fierce warriors. And then they'd come home and be the most gentle, playful fathers because they had healthy emotional range. Why do men have healthy emotional range? Because the women have healthy emotional range. But we're told women are subservient to men and not to talk, not to express their authenticity, not to individuate, which is what creates a mentally healthy adult, then we get tons of problems. We get the victim mindset. We get oppressor, oppressee. We get, women aren't valued. We get feminism. Purpose beyond domination, pride in restraint, self-control. Identity grounded in service to life, not control. They're keeping everybody alive, not controlling them. For families, mutual dependence, not one-sided. And this is really important, actually, for me. I attract players into my life, top-tier men who have multiple women. But as complementary, as equal, how is legitimate for him to say, well, I need more because I'm this kind of guy and, women aren't as valuable? That's the whole mindset of one man, multiple women. Women aren't as valuable. Well, in the Cherokee model, women are equally valuable. So that model really works for me. Balance power, low tolerance for abuse, like in Cherokee and the Maori traditions. Men that abused women would get killed or ostracized for life. Just no tolerance. High relational stability, great relationships. This structure tended to produce emotionally integrated men, socially powerful women, and resilient children. We don't have resilient children right now. We have very fragile children who want us to cancel anything that makes their feelings hurt at college. Cancel culture. That's what we got. How it can fail if distorted. If the proverb is misunderstood or abused, risk for women. Emotional over responsibility, sure. Becoming a therapist instead of partner. Staying with unsafe men to heal them. Self-sacrifice without protection, risk for men. Emotional dependence, entitlement to women's labor, passivity, fragile identity. The model only works if protection is real, emotional labor is respected, and boundaries are enforced. See, in Christianity, we do our due diligence in one lifetime, then after we're dead, we go to heaven. Well, that's not true for Native Americans. We come back and we're stewards of the land. We're stewards of a relationship with the buffalo. So we don't do our work, then the buffalo die. Like we have a lot of responsibility here if we want to be welcomed back then as a reincarnation. But Christianity doesn't believe in reincarnation, so why care for the planet in the long run when I'm not coming back? Just a question. Comparison to traditional Christian mindset. Cherokee model. Women and men. The woman is a spiritual connector. The man is the physical protector. So the woman, the soul, the internal work, the emotions, that's her domain. The man is the physical domain. And when they respect that, they're complementary. Woman, emotional authority, boundary authority, voice of conscience, guardian of safety, her voice. Communication is feminine. They have equal dignity. Power flows in two directions. Traditional Christian family model. Women submit, man rule. Women serve, man decide. Women endure, man command. Right? We're just getting through one lifetime. Moral support, moral authority. Men are the moral authority. And then they're having sex with multiple women. See, when we see women as source energy, that women have a far more robust nervous system to channel the soul, to channel the souls of infants, the pregnancy. Like the mother being the, kind of channeling the universe, which is channeling all the wisdom and the knowledge, like channeling that and then sharing it. Don't you want her to be the moral authority and to, be the kind of backbone of integrity? But if women are the backbone of integrity, how can they be subservient to men? Power flows one direction, top down. How has that been for us in terms of our ecological systems? So the psychological consequences of Christian model for women: trained for self-erasure, chronic guilt for needs, spiritualized suffering, tolerance of neglect, weak boundaries, codependent. For men, emotional suppression, entitlement to authority, identity based on control, difficulty with vulnerability, fear of failure. Sound like the white man? Distance from children. I would say it does. This often produces emotionally absent fathers, overburdened mothers, and anxious children. Sounds like what we got going on right now. So, how is the Christian worldview going to create a healthy nuclear family in the long run when it hasn't been able to do it so far? I mean, Christianity is being promoted as the solution a lot in America, but is it the solution? And does it really have the structures to create long-term success in a healthy nuclear family? I'd argue that it doesn't without some changes, but that's why I'm here. Okay, let's go. Heaven orientation makes the difference deeper. Christian theology often adds your reward is later, which encourages women to endure now, men to justify authority now, justice is postponed, and balance is normalized. Like, didn't you know the cross is the only ladder to heaven, that heaven is elsewhere? With zero understanding that we live in a holographic universe. Oh, Mary Magdalene was teaching that. The early Christians were teaching that. Inner authority. And what we perceive outside of us is also us. Because what draws my attention, based on a holographic universe, is designed that the universe is a mirror, showing me myself in every moment as a constant feedback loop for self-improvement. So let's learn about the Cherokee model. Imbalance to be normalized. The Cherokee model is present life oriented. Makes a difference. And we see, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's like, when you take your focus out, when you're focused outside of yourself, you can't heal. When you let everything go and you just exist and listen to your inner authority, that's when you heal. Harmony must exist here or the system is broken. One paragraph synthesis. The Cherokee proverb sets individuals up for success by distributing power across emotional and protective domains, making women spiritual authorities and men guardians of safety, creating mutual dependence rather than hierarchy. Traditional Christianity, by contrast, often concentrates authority in men and sanctifies female sacrifice, which can foster codependency, emotional suppression, and tolerance of imbalance. Wow. Wow. Well, I think that explains a lot of the challenges we have here in Western society and why we need to learn from other cultures to create a healthy, balanced family unit here. But let's get back into, I want to share something on my, let me share it this way. Let me find it, but I want to share two videos. And one is of how the heart is a vortex. And I'll get into that in a second. Let me bring it up. I was going to share it a different way, but it doesn't show really well that way. So let me bring it up and then I'll explain. So our hearts, the neurological structure of our hearts, are far more complex than our brains. So the soul communicates out through the heart, hits the nervous system in the heart. The nervous system communicates to the brain. So if fear comes out of the soul through the heart to the brain, then cortisol is released. And when fear is constantly being communicating out of the soul, like my life was, then the brain overproduces cortisol, which keeps the blood sugar levels in the blood really high, fueling inflammation in the body. It's got to be like 80 or 90% of diseases that are caused by inflammation. And I'm going to quote Einstein: the field is the sole governing agency of the particle, meaning the energy field is the sole governing agency of the body, or the soul is the sole governing agency of the body. And that aligns with Tesla, who said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So we're about to learn that blood flows in a fetus before the heart ever pumps, based on energy. Well, let's look at how the heart is a vortex. This is one of my favorite videos.
Let me just read this because I think it's actually probably one of the best descriptions of the heart that I've ever run across. They taught you the heart was just a glorified meat pump, that it squeezes and pushes blood like some crude mechanical device, a hydraulic engine made of flesh. That is what they want you to believe, because if you buy into that primitive lie, you never ask deeper questions. But it is false. It has always been false. And the real science proves it. Dr. Francesco Torrenguas, a Spanish cardiac researcher, discovered what the textbooks refuse to acknowledge, that the heart is not a pump. He dissected thousands of hearts and found that the heart is a single continuous muscle band folded into a spiral. He proved that the heart works like a vortex generator, creating suction and torque, not pressure. He called it the helical ventricular myocardial band, and it changes everything. The real movement of the blood comes from pressure differentials, electromagnetic flow, and coherent resonance. The blood spirals naturally. It need not be forced through miles of arteries and capillaries. The so-called pump is not strong enough to push thick fluid through 60,000 miles of tubing. That is basic physics. That lie was dead on arrival. Here is the truth. Blood moves before the heart forms in the embryo. That is, by the way, a documented fact. It flows via frequency, resonance, and electric charge. The body is a field, not a factory. Your heart creates a toroidal electromagnetic field that radiates 6 meters from the body. This field syncs with the earth, the sun, and every living being around you. It is a resonator, a tuner, a conductor. It aligns the rhythm of your cells. It feels, it remembers, it emits, and it responds to emotion, thought, light, sound, and breath. When you feel love, grief, fear, or peace, your heart transmits it. It is the central frequency modulator of your biology, not a pump. And the
the institutions, they know this. The Heart Math Institute's been teaching that for a long time. So, how does the Christian worldview of God gave us dominion over impact how we perceive our bodies to function? And this external locus of control, does an external locus of control help us perceive the body as a factory and not a field? Factory, a pump, factory. Outside in, not inside out. So we have an outside in worldview that sets us up for the victim mindset, that sets us up for disease, that sets us up for so many problems. There's a whole field of epigenetics that has proven that less than 1% of our diseases come from our genetics. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle, and all of our cells have receptors in them to receive our own energy, not other people's energy, because the energy field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Anyway, I'm Carrie Blazer. I will leave you there. I hope you grab a copy of my free ebook. I hope it helps you. Please reach out with any questions. Take care.